Hello, all you groovy people. I'm Scott Renz. I'm your instructor for the Microsoft Excel VBA macros. This is class number 4, so I hope you watched classes 1, 2, and 3 already. Not, I encourage you to do so first. But either way, you're welcome to be in this class. Now, in this class, I'm going to show you, about my problem. My situation is I have this workbook, got one sheet. It's got this column headers, and then it's got data following that. Well, I happen to have several books in the same folder that this one is in. That is, they have the same label row, but they've got other data underneath, and sometimes the same data, duplicate data. Don't worry about that later. But what I want to do is I want to grab the data off of all these other ones after their header row and add them on after the last the data rows in this sheet. Just add them on one after the other, except for the label row. I don't need that twice. So let's see, how would we go about doing that? Well, here I've got this procedure, subroutine that goes through the same folder that this workbook is in and grabs the others with a similar name. You see, so I've got the macro in this book. And the first thing I do is I grab that path name from this book. And I grab the file name that I'm be interested in. Well, it's a wildcard file name. So see, I got an asterisk there. So I want all the ones that be in the same path that has a similar name that starts with the same characters and then asterisk after that. Now, as you can see, I've got two here. One is in Windows. It's a backslash that divides between the hierarchy of the files and the folders. And in on a Mac, it's a forward slash. And I happen to be on a Mac, so I got the forward slash one. But you might, if you're on Windows, you want this backslash. So what I do is I grab the path name. Well, here I'm saying X here. It's not X. See, I've modified this since I first wrote it. And an X here, it's D path, D path. Mm. Yeah, so like to automatically, if you define it as a capital letter, it'll put it in for you. But since this one's a comment, it doesn't. Not changing that one. But anyway, so that's the first thing I do. See, I define, there's a string variable called dpath and one called dfiles, another one called I. It's my iterating variable. Long, meaning it's an integer, but a very long, and it could be long because who knows, I could have 100,000 rows, if you want to call it integer, it'll only go up 30,000 something, 32,000 and something. So it's just to be safe to say long. You can have a lot of rows. And then I'm saving my string that's that path that this original book is in. But that's where all my others are in the same folder. I'm going to tack onto it the file names with this wildcard, asterisk, and find all the ones that are spelled like that. Test, mail, wake, something. I'll grab all of them. Like this loop, because the dir will grab the first one. But I use this dir function to get the first thing that matches this thing with this wildcard. If I didn't have a wildcard, I'd just find the first thing that matches wildcard or not, whatever is in there. So you're really only going to get one hit if you don't have a wildcard, or no hits if there's nothing matching that. But if you got that wildcard, you grab the first one that meets this criteria. I'm going to do dir. And then I'm going to have this for loop to get the others. The first thing it'll work with this first one I grabbed up here. And it'll open it. See, workbooks open whatever that first one that we found, that path and that first file name it found. Well, we'll grab that first one, open it, and then we'll do the dir command again. Now, when you do dir command again without anything, an empty parameter, you're telling it, oh, whatever I did last, keep working on it, get the next one. If it was a wild card, no wild card, there'll be no next one, you'll get nothing. But if it was a wild card and there's another one that matches that name, you get that on the next time. However, if there is nothing, or you've already hit the last one, here's where I say if the files is blank, is nothing, then exit this for loop. Could see I say, right, it was 1 to 100. I'm assuming I got less than 100 books. It's not going to go all the way 100 because once I hit no more that match, I'm going to end this loop anyway. So this is just a way to loop through and get all these same ones that start with that string. So let's run that. Yeah, because the ones that are macro books, it's going to warn me, is that okay? And I got to tell it on each macro ones that hits it. That's okay. Let's see, it's open to others that are not macro-enabled books. And it loops through, grabbing them all. It looks like it got through them all. We can look and see okay, here's all the ones that I grabbed. I've got all these ones that had matched, and they're now in here. Okay. And I'm going to want to then tack them on the data, all those rows after the label rows, tack them onto this one. So how are we going to do that? Well, I've got this other procedure of combined recipients. First thing I'm doing is I'm using dim, which are necessary, but it's helpful. It helps you to see what all the variables you'll be using. I've got one that's for last row of the current value, current book, last row of the next book, and the last column of the next book. So first thing I want is I want to get that last row number of the current book. The reason I'm doing that is I want to then select the first cell after that. I want that selected because that's where I'm going to want to paste the new rows from the next book. So I've already saved that place where I'm going to be pasting to. So I'm doing a for loop, going through all the workbooks from 1 to whatever the highest number, because there's 10 workbooks. Well, it's going to go from 1 to 10 because that's the count of the workbook. Now, if we happen to hit the one that this macro is in, well, we don't want to grab its data again. We're happy with the data we already got there. So if the next one is not this current workbook, activate it and get its last row number, get its last column number. Now we're saying here, if the last row number is greater than 1, why are we doing that? Because if all you have is that label row, if you don't do this, you're going to go from row 2 to row 1, going back and grabbing that label row again. No, so we don't want to do that. So only want the ones that have data from 2 on. So this will grab that. This, since I say active sheets range from cells row 2, column 1 to the last row in the last column. So grab all that data, starting with row 2, and paste it to the sheet 1 of the current book. And the reason it's going to go because we have selected that next row, the one that's after the last data row. We're going to paste to that. So we're going to activate that sheet for the reason we're doing that. And now we want to get the new last row and select the first cell after that. So the next time we paste, it'll be going to that one, not from back when we were here. So it's going to loop through all of them, grabbing their data and adding it to this workbook. So let's have it do that. Run it. Yay. Hey, so I grabbed all that data from all those workbooks, and we've got a whole bunch more here. But let's sort them. Get in a order of the way we like things to be, and here we got this one called sort cols, and it's sorting it based on what rows, what columns we want to be the priority. And I can show you that as an example. We could record a macro. Let's do that. We record a macro. Record a macro. Macro 1, sure, whatever. And we're going to record it. We're going to select all this and go to this data column here, and we're going to sort. Now in sorting, we want to sort see the way I selected this state. I could, well, let's do it from scratch. So let's see how I did it, do it. Now you want to add levels. So first we want to sort by state column. Then we want to sort by the city column. And then we want to sort by zip code column. See, I didn't, I'm not doing by country because they're all US. So I'm not concerned about that there. And then we want to sort by last name. So we want it by address or last name. Yeah, well, first the last name and then address, right? Let's do last name. And then address. We'll do it that way. Okay. Now it should have made that macro for me. So let's stop recording. See what that looks like. See what that macro looks like. And we call it macro. It's 2. Call it 2, didn't it? No, 2. Must be 1. That's have been macro 1, right? I should remember these things. Okay. Macro 1, is that it? Let's see. Oh, okay, there it is. So there was the sorting macro it made for me that I record. Now there's a problem with this. It's hard coding the range. It's hard coding the range here. See, it's going to row 331. Well, on that particular sheet, it went to 331. But when I run this again, it might not be 331 rows. So we're going to want to change this generic. So however many rows it has, it'll work. And we'll be changing the sheet name from test May Awake BC to 1, just the number 1, because it'll always be sheet number 1. And here what I did, instead of here saying D331, first I went in here and did last row to getting that number by using cells, rows, count, and end up row. But this is telling you, go to the last row, but go up to the first row of data after that last row, because you might have a whole bunch of blank rows down there where you don't care about all those. So this saying, and Excel up, keep going up till you hit the first one after that last row that really had data. So that gets you your last row. And by doing that, I can use, instead of this saying D331, I'll say D and then tack onto that last row number. So it's doing all those columns, sorting on those columns, and go to getting the full row, all the row numbers. And so there you have your generic sort routine and made by first doing record a macro and then modifying it so that I get all the rows. And let's see what that gets us. I guess it did it. Let's have a look. Okay, see here how since we were sorting by state, you can see it's done that. Okay, so it's sorted, but here's a problem. As you can see, we got a bunch of duplicates. So some of my sheets had these same people in them. So we're going to want to get rid of duplicates. And I could show you how you can do that with record a macro. If we record a macro. Okay, I remember this time it's macro 3. Okay, macro 3. Record about a macro, and we're going to say data, remove duplicates. And said, yeah, this has headers, and yeah, these are the columns I want. So, okay. Oh, wow. 272 duplicates. It leaves me with 59 unique ones. Okay, well, let's stop recording that macro. Oops. Tell it. Nope. Nope. There. Let's go out of this. There. Go out of this. Tell it to stop recording the macro. There we go. Boom. Stop recording the macro. Now let's go. Look at that macro. Macro 3. I remember 3 this time. 3. Okay, let's look at macro 3. And there it has it. Remove the macro. Active sheet in the range and remove. Now again, we've got this. It thinks that we have 332 rows. And here, looking, it's for column. Well, there's 7 columns. But if we want to do generic, well, we can do that same trick to get this last row number here. How are we going to make sure we get an array like that with the right number of columns? Well, first thing I'm going to show you how to do that, but to explain why I start with 0 rather than 1. Watch this if I do var array equals ARRAY when I don't think. See what happens when I do that. Step into that. Let's do this thing where we say B array equals that array. Step into that. Now let's see what that B array looks like. All right, see what we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like we have up here. But look at what it's calling them, 0 through 6. Okay, so keep that in mind when I show you our special macro to make a generic and a generic version of this. We'll let's look at that. To macro. Here's that. Remove duplicates. Okay, here was our remove duplicates macro. And the trick to build that array, remember how we had that array 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. I showed you if I built another array based on that array, how it made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and putting the numbers in it. Well, there's how you do it with this loop. Because we went and got the range column count. And so we make an array called V array that's 0 through whatever the count was. Actually, the count minus 1 because we're going 0 through 7 minus 1, 6. And so it loops through building this array each time, adding 1 to the array, which we can see what happens if we run this to the cursor here. And there we've got an array like that other one we saw. Goes 0 through 6, getting our 1 through 7 array. And so here we're doing our array. Here we're doing the remove duplicates. Remove duplicates like we had here. Only this time we're saying that use the used array rather than saying A1 through G59. We'll just use all our used range, which is this. And then what's the column array? It's this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as we have down here. So that will remove duplicates. Let's let this finish and see it with the removed duplicates. All right, see it's now we're only down to 58 rows of data. You got rid of the duplicates that are exact same, but as you can see, here's you'll have to go through on your own and catch. See, look at some typos here. Here's Nancy and Nacy. Slightly different addresses. There's a space between the period and 409 and so you'll have to do some on your own cleaning and look for things like that and get rid of this here. Don't see any more duplicates. Well, here's somebody with same street address, but it's got 3 different names. Okay, so we want all 3 of them to get a letter. We're going to mail letters to these people. And we figured, well, let's send it to all 3 of them, even though they live in the same place. So here's how we get, here's how we make a sheet from multiple workbooks. Grab all the data, get it sorted, get rid of duplicates, eyeball and get rid of other duplicates that the machine has no idea you didn't type properly. And there we have it. I hope you found this useful. See you in the next class.